As a kid, actually, no, forget that. To this day, I still think Terminator 2 is the greatest action movie of all time. And from that, I think all of us have this weird innate sense of AI being Skynet and taking over the world and destroying everything. And honestly, I don't know, maybe it's true. By the time we know that it's true, it'll be too late. But where we are right now is an interesting moment, because with ChatGPT and Bard and all these other programs, there's finally the first accessible to a normal person use of AI. Like, I think the first thing people miss is the fact that AI has been around for so long. It's just now the easiest way for us to use it as normal people. And so it's drastically changing how we're doing marketing, how we're doing copywriting, thought leadership, all those things. And so I've really been asking this question about who's willing to come on and talk to me about this, talk to the group about this, and really be honest about it. A bunch of people said no or weirdly did not reply. And Wayne jumped up immediately in 1 second with no hesitation. Absolutely. So I am so glad to be joined by Wayne Pollock here. Not only because he's willing to talk about a topic that I really like, but because he's a great person to talk to about it. He's a former Big Law senior litigation associate who now ghostwrites thought leadership content for Big Law and boutique law firm partners who have ideas they want to share with the world and are too damn busy to do so themselves, which Wayne speaks to my soul. I mean, like, I love the way he phrased that. I love what he's doing, and I think he's the perfect person for us to have on. So Wayne, thanks for being with us today.
Jordan, thanks for having me. I have to say, I don't remember you telling me before you invited me that 27 people said no, but I'm here. I'm ready to rock. And I'm a little bit disturbed by the Terminator 2 reference with AI. I was thinking maybe 2001, A Space Odyssey, where only maybe a handful of astronauts died at the hands of AI as opposed to civilization. But Jordan, you do you. I'm here to talk AI.
There we go. I love it. All right. So last week we had Lori Gilbertson on. Lori's a former sex crimes prosecutor from New York. Talked to us about winning the most important case, courtroom communication for life. So Lori talked to us about how to use a lot of the strategy that we as trial attorneys put into place in the courtroom and apply that to convincing our kids to do things, talking to business partners, convincing clients to hire us. Really cool chat. Check that out for this. But we've got Wayne here live talking today about the future of copywriting in the era of AI. So Wayne, before we get into that, give me a little bit more on your, background. So leaving Big Law, doing the ghostwriting, thought leadership type stuff, like walk me through that.
Yeah, so I am a lawyer licensed to practice here in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Went to Georgetown Law. I did all the things I thought I was supposed to do. Got onto Law Journal, graduate from the big prestigious law school, then go to a big prestigious law firm. Was there for 6.5 years. Back 2010 to 2016, when it was very much a law firm market, not the associates market we've seen in recent years in terms of the pendulum of power between law firms and associates. So I had very much a head down, do my work, bill my 2,200 hours a year. But I didn't like the fact that I had no control, no autonomy over my work, over my lifestyle. Most attorneys know every Friday night, every day before a 3-day weekend or before a holiday, you are crossing your fingers, hoping that a client call doesn't come through, opposing counsel doesn't drop, a load of crap on you, literally, figuratively. So I just got tired of that. And my first iteration of my business after I left Deckert in 2016 was as a litigation public relations company. So I have a PR background, and originally I was helping attorneys and their clients with publicity around their lawsuits, either helping create publicity or helping to put it down if they're on the defense side. But I saw pretty quickly that business model wasn't working for me. So I pivoted, and through some good luck, I had an old colleague of mine bring me in to do a thought leadership ghostwriting project for 10 partners at a huge international law firm. And I said, holy crap, I can get paid for this stuff. And that was 2019. And I've been rolling around ever since in the thought leadership ghostwriting world. So I'm a big fan of niching down. I'm a big fan of not being afraid to niche down and to say no to work that's not the perfect fit for you. And I'm not afraid to also niche down to a point where you position yourself in a very, very particular way, whether that is a ghostwriter for partners at large law firms, or maybe you're an estate attorney for celebrities, or you are, a personal injury attorney who only handles a particular type of case regarding a particular type of plaintiff. You can just build your marketing and thought leadership much more easily than if you were a general practitioner.
And I always love, I'm reminded, Mike Whalen talks about how for so long lawyers were the keeper of the words. And it's so funny to me because you are the speaker for the keeper of the words by doing the thought leadership, taking the attorney's brain knowledge and putting it out there to be accessible. So it becomes such a cool, translation, for lack of a better term.
And I'll tell you that as much as I am a ghost writer, I'm also a ghost thinker, because a lot of times these attorneys have ideas, but they just don't know how to get them out of their brains and onto paper in the form of an article or long form blog post. They have a concept, they saw something with their cases, or they've developed some kind of pattern for resolving a particular type of case, and they just don't know how to pull it out of them. And I think the role of a ghostwriter isn't just making sure that we capture very closely what the client is saying and wants us to put forth in an article or what have you, but guiding them along that process. So they start with an idea. They want to talk about litigating cases against state attorneys general. And let's weave that. What are we talking about? Are we talking about how it's different versus private litigation? Are we talking about how it's different based with discovery or because of the power of the government behind them? Working with attorneys to lead them down this road where we can talk about the idea. It's not just, blurting out 1,000 words about a topic. It is trying to conform and mold it to what their audience is going to want to hear and read about, so they can be perceived, the attorney, as the authority in the minds and eyes of their clients, of their referral sources, et cetera.
I want to push back on one part though. Sometimes it's what the client needs to hear that is not what they want to hear. But yeah, no, it's so fascinating to me because, obviously we're legalese marketing, and it was a dad joke at first, but ultimately the longer we go, the more I realize we are translating legalese into marketing speak, and both of those things into what an intelligent 13-year-old would understand, for lack of a better term. So it's so interesting to me, this whole concept. That being said, anything else before we transition kind of into the AI side?
No, let's jump in.
All right. So when we're talking about ghostwriting, we're talking about copywriting. What are we talking about from that perspective? And then let's talk about how we can utilize AI, or where we should be or where we shouldn't be.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this obviously before we started talking, and I've tried to create a 4-point framework. When we talk about AI and we talk about writing, especially content marketing, thought leadership marketing, copywriting, whatever it is, we can break down the idea of AI into 4 parts in terms of, 1, the topic selection. What are we writing about? Right? Are we writing an email campaign? Are we writing a blog post regarding some aspect of our practice? Are we writing an article? What's the topic here? Second, the substance. Where is that going to come from? Is that going to be our memories, our experiences of running a law firm, of taking a particular case to trial, of handling a difficult client? Or are we going to be looking at an SEO post? So we're going to be looking at what's published already and trying to wrap that up together into a nice new piece of content. The actual writing, we're going to take our ideas out of our brain, and how are we getting them onto paper? Are we going to be writing them ourselves, or are we going to have AI do that? And then finally, polishing, editing, like Grammarly, SEO optimization. Are we going to have AI come in and we're going to have AI help us polish, or are we going to have a human do that and make sure that it reads well, or we're going to have a combination of both? So I want the listeners and viewers to think about AI and writing in this 4-part framework, because it demystifies it a bit and makes it a much more approachable idea than simply AI will write for us. That's not what's happening. We have a topic selection, we have the substance, the actual writing, and the polishing. I think that's helpful for people to think about as we have this conversation, so they can follow along and understand where in their process they might have AI come in or have a human do it fully.
I love it, man. You make my life easy. So I guess we'll just take those one at a time, right?
So when we're talking,
sorry.
Yeah.
So talk to me about topic selection.
Yeah. So, we can easily go into whether it's ChatGPT or some other AI specific writing program like Jasper or Write Sonic or Content at Scale. There's a number of these companies now who are creating on the back of ChatGPT these types of optimized programs that are designed to help write blog posts, help write email campaigns, help write LinkedIn ads or Facebook ads. So even like before you get into this framework, it's understanding your tool you might want to use instead of just kind of the general chat GPT. But anyway, so when it comes to topic selection, we can look to AI and say, okay, I need to talk about dog bites in Jacksonville, or I want to talk about estate planning in Texas, or, family law, high net worth divorces in California. And we could ask the AI, we could ask the program to give us 5, 10, 15 blog post topics, excuse me. I think that is a perfectly reasonable idea. And that is not going to be plagiarizing or somehow messing around with AI content. You are basically supplementing or complementing your own brainstorming, right? You just are staring at the screen. You can't think of something. You can use your AI to come up with a topic. You can certainly Google around that and make sure that no one has covered it maybe exactly the same way, or you have a different spin you could put on based on your audience and the way you do your business and the way you conduct your law and your target audience. But to me, topic selection is probably one of the least difficult ways for attorneys and anyone, marketers, anyone, to get into AI, because it's not high risk, right? You're just getting some topics to help the brain gears start turning.
And I'll tell you, this is the part that I love AI with the most. I wrote a newsletter, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago about like, there's only 7 jobs in the world. And I broke that up into what they are. And it was funny because going into it, I thought there were only 5. And then literally I had a conversation with ChatGPT and I was like, hey, look, I think these are the only jobs. What am I missing? And it gave me enough to create 2 other jobs. So, between, was it like vision, marketing, sales, the actual work, support, accounting, whatever. And there's a 7th one. But anyway, and it was interesting because I had this actual conversation with it to help me understand what I was missing from a list of, 5 things that I thought covered everything, but figured out some of the things that I was missing.
And topic selection, when we talk about it, most of the time you can do that on any free level of service, whether it's Google Bard, whether it's Bing AI solution, whether it's ChatGPT. You don't need to buy even the advanced version of GPT or any other kinds of paid version. Most of the language models out there, you can put in the general idea, give me 5 topics or 15 topics about XYZ. And obviously, if you condition it a bit and say, I'm an attorney in New York State that serves athletes regarding their family law issues, I would like 10 blog posts, please, regarding how to handle a divorce or valuing assets or custody. And it will somewhat refine that topic to your exact specifications. And then obviously, once you start writing, that's when you can really hammer it home to your target audience.
Yeah. And listen, I want to echo exactly what Wayne said. For anybody listening to this or watching this, that's the key to it. It's not just, hey, give me 10 blog posts as a lawyer. It's as a lawyer who does this in this area for these type of people. Like, the more information you give it about the purpose, the more it's going to understand the output, or the more it's going to understand what you want to give you a better output of topics, of ideas, of, whatever it is from there.
Yep. And that's where I see people sometimes messed up, where they're like, oh, well, the AI isn't that great. And look, there are instances where the AI is not going to be great, but it's a very sophisticated program. And the better you condition it, even to structure, you could say, okay, do you understand? You tell it something, do you understand? It'll respond, yes, I understand. I'm ready for the blog posts. And then you start putting in more information to extract what you need from it.
Yeah. And a lot of times, especially from a topic generation at this point, I'll ask it for like 30 ideas and 25 of them are terrible. But I'll get 5 good ones that, I may not have come up with, so sometimes you're going to ask it for more to know that a lot of the stuff's repetitive and whatnot along there.
Well, and you nailed it. And I think that's the key too, is that as of right now, these AI tools, when it comes to this particular application, not data analytics, not looking up cases on Westlaw or Lexis, when it comes to purely content marketing, thought leadership marketing, it is a tool. I don't think it's there yet in terms of replacing humans outright. And it may never be there based on what you need it for. But to your point, it doesn't matter if you got 15 pieces of crap. You got 5 good ones, or at least 5 topics that you could manage and tinker with. That was 5 more than you had 1 minute ago, 5 minutes ago, when you sat down at your keyboard to start this process.
And I got to 30 ideas in 45 seconds that I could take 10 minutes to vet down into 5, as opposed to taking, I used to do like two hours of research to write an hour article, and now I can get so much of that information in 10 seconds and then vet it for 5 minutes. And get a much better written article in a tenth the time.
And I'm not sure if you could do this yet, but I'm pretty sure you can, or we're damn close. Imagine instructing the AI to go to your 5 closest competitors, analyze their blog post topics, analyze your blog post topics, and see if there are areas where you are not covering content that your competitors do. And you can even go a second level, which is, I guess, plug that into some SEO software and see how they're ranking the missing ones. But you could see how it isn't just content creation. There is some analytics here. There's some strategy and planning that you can use the AI for. It's kind of beyond the scope of the conversation, but still get the idea that you can use this to plan and strategize, not just create content for your website.
Yeah. And I wonder, obviously with ChatGPT 4 integrating the internet, you could probably have it cross-reference with RFs or something like that to get the SEO, take these 30 topics you idea, cross-reference them with RFs to say which ones would have the most SEO juice, and then let me focus on those in that order also. Yeah,
and there's a mad race for all of these integrations, all these companies to come in and integrate their software with ChatGPT. So I would imagine that kind of software, SEO, content marketing software, has to be among the first, tranche of software companies getting in there, because they know how powerful it is, how it could augment their already fairly robust offerings.
Totally. Okay, so from the standpoint of the topic selection, is there anything that we should not use AI for during topic selection, or any warnings that might come up in this area?
The only thing I think of right now is, are you plagiarizing some other blog post topic by using the exact same blog post topic? And I don't know, based on what I see in SEO research, there are 15 different law firms in Philadelphia that might say, what to do if you're bitten by a dog in Philadelphia County. Like, it just happens, right? So I'm not sure that's an issue. I would say that I think the bigger issue is taking the topics, and this is a recurring theme, by the way, taking the topics at the AI's word. Just saying, okay, this is the topic. I'm going to use this without daring to tinker with it, play around with it, and think, okay, do I actually have something I could say about this blog post topic, as opposed to just taking it and say, all right, here we go. Let's roll with the next step.
Yeah, I think that's I know we'll get into this more, but that to me is the biggest thing. Like, where in your personal brand can you put your spin on this? Where in your unique selling proposition can you put your take on this? Like, how can you actually do that stuff? Look, to anybody listening, that's going to apply to every piece of marketing that you do, so that you don't sound like 1,000 other firms right next door. Certainly AI is going to give us the opportunity to all sound a lot similar. So it becomes that much more important to stand out. All right. So you want to dive into substance?
Right. So now we've got the topic, right? We have an idea. We've got maybe 5 different topics that sound good to us. We're going to add that to our editorial calendar and move on. So now the substance comes in, and we have to ask, what are we doing here? Where is the substance of this article coming from? And it depends on what you want the article to be. If you are going to be engaging in a piece of thought leadership where you want to lament about the way depositions are being conducted in your jurisdiction, or you want to take issue with a recent appellate case, chances are good that that's got to come from you, in your mind, your brain, because that is a reflection. Those topics are a reflection of how you see the world, of your personal experiences. And maybe you can get help writing it in the next step. But in terms of the actual source of that content, it's almost certainly going to come from you. Compare that to more general ideas about what to do. If, as I keep using the same example, forgive me, if you're bitten by a dog, if you're in a car accident, if you want to write about certain different levels of crimes, misdemeanors versus felonies, whatever the kind of SEO content marketing is that your goals are for SEO content marketing, that's where I see you being able to rely more on the AI to scour the web and pull from the top sites that are ranking on Google. And there are some writing programs out there that say explicitly, what we do is when you give us a topic for your blog, we will go on Google, the AI goes on Google, scours the top 5, top 10 ranking SEO, for SEO purposes, ranking posts, and then pulls them in and rewrites them in a way that creates a wholly new piece of content that you can then use for your blog post. In this step, the substance step here of our 4 steps, this is where I think there is the most opportunity to screw up badly, to plagiarize, to get it wrong. Because when you are relying on relying on AI to do your substance finding, and coming up with the substance of your article, you are putting a lot of faith into AI, and it's just not there yet in terms of hallucinations, plagiarism, etc. So this is where I caution people the most. If you're going to dive in to the substance of an article or a blog post or whatever, and you're going to rely on AI, be very careful and make sure you vet every damn word in that blog post.
Yeah, I'm gonna highlight the unfortunate plight of our New York colleague, Mr. Schwartz, who I think just had to pay $5,000 for filing a brief with a bunch of made up cases because of ChatGPT. So, or maybe he was the one that signed off on the research to the other attorney who filed the brief, but
it was like a professional responsibility law school final exam where there was like 18 different issues that popped up over the course of the entire process. So, yeah, right. Like if you rely too much on AI for the content, even little things that look so damn good. If, for example, if you're talking about family law or estate planning and it makes a claim about how Pennsylvania law does something or Illinois law does something, it seems okay, but unless you're a practitioner, you're not going to know it's flat out wrong. So that's where I think you have the human come in, where maybe the human isn't any longer doing all the SEO research and like pulling from this one blog post and this one blog post to bring it together. But when they have the finished substance, they are the ones who are basically fact checking. So it's like the writer has shifted from a 100% writer to more of a fact checker, making sure that what is being said is actually true.
So what are some of the things, like what should we be looking for at the substance stage out of AI? Like an outline, like the underlying research, like what's the good that comes from this?
Well, that's a great point, because a lot of times the research will come in the form of prose that people might want to copy and paste directly into a blog post, right? If you are asking it, tell me about the law in Pennsylvania regarding XYZ, or tell me about Oregon law regarding XYZ. And it is literally, it's chat, it's a language model. So it is going to give you text as a response. It's not giving you links. It's gone and found those links and is pulling the content from the internet and putting it into prose, into paragraphs. It's very tempting to take that and just go copy and paste and put it into your post or your article, whatever. That's the problem. That's the issue. So I think that becomes your kind of like your working pile of information, right? This is the source material. Okay, it says these 5 things about Oregon law concerning this particular issue. I'm going to now quickly look this up to make sure it's correct, or I can tell, because I'm a lawyer, I know this stuff, and I can tell pretty quickly, this is a little off. There's some nuance missing. There's maybe a caveat we should add. Again, it goes to your audience. If your audience is the type that, or your target client is the type that a caveat might often apply, then the omission of that caveat is going to be a huge deal. Compare that. If your audience doesn't ever fall into that caveat or that exemption, then it might be okay to mention it because that's the law, but the omission isn't that big of a deal because your clients aren't likely to fall into it anyway.
Okay. So best practice, obviously best practice is vet to make sure it's all correct, but secondary best practice sounds like don't copy what it says verbatim, even if it is right, and still put a tweak or a spin on it.
Yeah, treat it like opposing counsel gave it to you. And you go, okay, well, this sounds good, but wait a second. This case can't be as spot on for them as they're making it out to be. That to me is a fairly easy standard. If this was opposing counsel sending it to me, how would I unpack this? What would I doubt? And how would I make sure that this is correct? And again, it might be just going online for 5-10 minutes and Googling around to make sure that you find the right kind of the right blog post to support it from a reputable, knowledgeable source. Or maybe like our friends in New York, just go to the citation for the case or the statute and make sure that statute says what the AI is telling you, because remember, the AI is going to be very specific. And if it's pulling citations to statutes from its source material on the web, it's going to give that to you. So you can easily go to, 57 section 22 and look at what 57 section 22 says. And if it doesn't match up with the AI told you, there's your red flag. And you should think more about what else is wrong with this post.
Well, and I think that's why I guess that's why for me, I much prefer the AI to give me lists. Like, okay, what are the, I love the example you talked about before, like with depositions. What are the 10 biggest mistakes young attorneys make in depositions? Have the AI generate it and then say, these three I think are stupid. Let me fill in these, but I like these seven. And then you can write, 3 to 5 paragraphs on each of those to really put your spin, to give some examples you've seen, to give some, practice tips or whatnot. And that way you're utilizing the AI for an outline without taking it at face value.
I think that's great. And that's a great way to inject your own voice and your own experience, because inevitably it'll give you, let's say, plain vanilla kind of 5 or 7 bullets about depositions. But then you might remember that one time when you were 6 years out of law school and this thing happened in this particular case, and you can modify that vanilla point and maybe you make it a bit more clear or you make it a bit more specific to your experience. So yeah, it is meant, I think when you do it that way, Jordan, with the outline, it really helps you get your juices flowing, because sometimes we need a bit more of a kick in the pants to get us thinking about our personal experiences, because if you're practicing for 10, 15, 20 years, you've forgotten
right.
so much, and it's helpful to remind you of certain things. So yeah, I think the outline is a great way to avoid some of these the more specific problems you have when you take the substance at its word.
Well, and I also like it from the standpoint of a conversation. I know it's weird to conversate, to have a conversation with a computer program, but like we're doing an interview right now, right? And so how many things did you not expect to talk about, but because I asked the question, out came, a more on point story, out came a different example. So utilizing the AI in that manner really forces you to go through that past, to be more specific, to get to those examples. And it just becomes really interesting because you can, I feel like I learn so much better when I write something out, but I learn it even better when I have a conversation about it, where someone asks me questions and you could always tell the AI, hey, what's unclear from what I just said? What else can I be thinking about? What else haven't we touched on? And it just becomes a fascinating way to have a one person conversation, but that conversation being with the entire knowledge of human history up to September of 2021 or whatever it is.
Sure. And of course, the later releases are much more up to date in terms of the content out there that's pulling from. So yeah, I mean, theoretically, we're at the point, if not now, then soon, where if an 11th Circuit or a 3rd Circuit case comes down today, you can go and ask ChatGPT to talk to you about it within a few hours, and you get theoretically an explanation of the case.
Right. Which is, I mean, honestly, everybody's talking about how terrible AI could be for marketing companies. I think Lexis and Westlaw are the ones who are going to have the biggest problem. But I don't know, maybe I'll be wrong. All right.
We're talking about the actual writing now. We've talked about topic selection and substance. Should we go to writing?
So let's go into writing.
All right. So far, when we were talking about this framework, topic selection, substance, and actual writing, we're talking about human versus AI. And are we going to rely on AI or have the human? The actual writing is where, again, the AI is getting there, but it's not quite where I think it needs to be. So we're at this point where we have the outline we have our topic, perhaps given to us by AI. We have an outline, perhaps given to us by AI. We have our bullet points given to us by AI. Now we're going to start writing. Some programs allow you to upload a PDF or a Word document of bullet points of your outline, and it will then go and write, quote unquote, write the article for you based on your bullet points and based on what you've said in your structure and the order that you said it. That's very exciting to me. And I think that is something that we have to pay close attention to, because that is immensely helpful, right? Like, even if you don't rely on AI for the topic and you don't rely on AI for the substance, because you're talking about your personal experience deposing insurance adjusters, now you can actually hand off that 2, 3, 4, 5 hour task of taking your outline, then stopping because you get a phone call, then going back to writing it, then you have a client meeting. The AI can perhaps write that in 30 seconds or a minute. That is transformative to me. But the issue is, how good is the AI at sticking to the script? Literally, I'm giving you 5 bullet points. I want you to talk about these 5 things in this order and extrapolate upon my bullet points, but don't pull in crap from the internet, because I don't want that, right? I don't want you to pollute this content, this idea. So that instance, we have a human generated topic and a human generated substance, and we have the AI going along and writing it. It could be the flip side. We can have AI come up with our topic, AI come up with our bullet points, and then we, the human, go in and write it. So at this actual writing portion of our framework, you are likely to get better results if the human does it. But again, you could have the AI take a crack at it, and then you have the person come in to edit it. And that might be a lifesaver for people who don't have very difficult or very complex things to say. They're really pressed for time. They just need 700 words on this, or they need, an article that's due to the local bar association publication. They need something quick. They'll still take the time to vet it, but they just don't have that time to sit and write, because some people will take 4, 5, 6, 7 hours to write 1,500 words, and some people do it in 2 hours. And if you're the kind of person who has a busy practice or a busy life and you're interrupted, that takes forever to just get 1,000 words on a paper, because you can't reset your brain fast enough to focus on the substance. So there is a great way to bring in AI or defer to the humans, but that I think is still to be continued or to be determined, because the AI content, so the AI ability to write content you give it is not quite there, and you can't definitely fence it off of the internet.
Have you used any of the AI that's built into the Google Suite now?
I've noticed the icon on my Google Workspace within the last few days. I haven't played with it too much, but I'm certainly aware of it.
It's really interesting. So like, I know Microsoft is working towards this in the Office suite. So by the time this airs in July, it may be up. But it's really interesting because you can take a Google Doc, highlight a segment, and then say, hey, AI, write this to be more formal, write this to be less formal, remove all the contractions, take out the curse words, but have it still make sense. Add in a bunch of curse words. Well, I take it back. I don't know that you can do that one. But you can certainly have it take it out. And so it's really interesting to see like almost the ability to have an AI editor on a line by line basis if you want it without, or give it access to everything. It's just fascinating to see the flexibility. I don't know if that's the right word, but
well, and you're hinting at that fourth framework, which is I call it the polishing, which is, okay, we have the content now, it's drafted. Can we have our AI tool, whether it's Google, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's one of these writing programs, can we have it now polish it in terms of cleaning it up? Can we have it optimized for SEO, or do we have a human do it, or do we have a combination? What I like to do, I use a software called Pro Writing Aid, which is like Grammarly, but it's a little bit more advanced and it has a number of different writing styles, and it tracks like 25 different aspects of your sentences and your overall word count and your overall grammar and style and whatever. So after I write an article, and then I review it myself to make sure that what I say I'm going to say, I actually say, that we have nice transitions and we refer back to certain things, and it's just a nice kind of flowing article. Then I run it through Pro Writing Aid to find instances of passive sentences, or maybe I'm using some business jargon that can be taken out, or I am starting a sentence with the wrong type of word, or I've got some kind of verb subject misagreement or non-agreement. You can use AI to help you capture those things, because AI is objective in the fact that it doesn't have sleepy eyes. It hasn't seen this document 15 times and is going to miss a typo because it's just read it so often that it passes over. So I think for editing, it is a fantastic tool. I'd say the topic selection and the editing are probably the strongest points right now, because they are both very, very effective and have the smallest amount or the smallest chance of screwing you over, because it's just editing grammar and style. It's not plagiarizing or pulling in exact words, exact phrases from content other people have written.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the writing itself or the editing, but the other time that I love using AI is for references, let's call it. So, and I don't mean that like in the formal sense. I mean like, hey, I'm in the middle of this I'm in the middle of this paragraph on a newsletter. What's a famous movie example of a situation where blah, blah, blah happened? What's the line that everyone will remember from so-and-so movie? And then having it give you that, like, okay, cool. Now I'm sitting here talking about, how lawyers get angry. So like, give me the quote from Network when he screams out the window, I'm mad as hell and can't take it anymore. Set that up and it'll do some things like that. And I think that's really cool to allow me to tap into the pop culture that I know, but in a very specific framework where I'm not thinking through, 280s movies to come up with the exact right quote.
That's fantastic. And if anyone is out there who reads Morning Brew, which is a very well-known business newsletter, they have analogies all the time. Their writers are fantastic writers, and they will reference some pop culture bit when they're some pop culture aspect, issue, movie, whatever, when they're talking about the news of the day. And that's a great way, I think, Jordan, to even further expand your ability, which is I can't remember every reference or every potential analogy to something. But if I tell the AI, can you give me an analogy or an idiom? Or, for example, I just had read an article where I had to cite, hard cases make bad law. Well, can you give the AI that and say, like, can you give me some version of this that is a bit funny and that refers to X or Y? And almost think about plays on words or puns. You can come up with these terms of language that you could use thanks to AI, because you just can't remember because you're not in that frame of mind at the moment. So yeah, that's a fantastic way to use AI. I'm going to try that as soon as we're done.
There we go. Well, and so you're talking about, they're using the AI at the beginning and then bringing in the person bringing AI. Like, what's the right balance? Is there a right balance between how much we let the AI do and how much we do ourselves?
Yeah, I think you have to let the AI assist you where you feel that you are not strong. So I think the editing is a perfect example, right? Very few of us are trained editors. The AI is a trained editor. It can help us with grammar, with style. If you are the kind of person who screws up with commas or always gets your quotation marks wrong or your semicolons wrong, instead of stopping and starting and trying to figure out and Googling how to use a semicolon within quotation marks, just write the damn thing. And you can have it edited at the end. I think that is the best model right now, is how can it augment your ability? How can it fill in some blanks? So again, with the topics where you can only think of 2 or 3 and you give it a prompt and it gives you 17 or 20 and only 5 are great, that's still more than you had before. My working framework when it comes to how AI helps me and how I think should help writers is fill in your blanks, make you stronger, but don't sacrifice the substance. When it comes to the substance of what you're saying, be very, very careful, especially when you want this to carry your voice, right? You, Jordan, could write your Friday newsletter with AI. I have no doubt, because the topics that you cover tend to be general. They're not specific about like an area of law or a particular very, very specific subject matter. They're generally about how lawyers can live better lives, market, run their firms. I'm willing to bet that a lot of the content you have out there or a lot of the content you would put in your email is out there in some form. But what makes your email so special is your personal voice. And if you got lazy someday or just didn't feel like injecting your voice, even though the substance of what you were putting in your email may have been exactly what you would have put it in if you wrote it, but instead you used AI, it would be missing that special Jordan ambiance, that's that seasoning that you put in there.
I'm glad. I think you mean that in a positive way.
I do mean that. I didn't say, I said seasoning. And that's the key, right? As there's more and more content being created, we are inevitably going to be awash with plain vanilla content. And if you don't have your content stand out somehow, then it's going to get lost and it won't be remembered. And I think substance is how you do it. Obviously, no one's going to remember if you're awesome with your semicolons or your quotation marks. They are going to remember you made them laugh. They're going to remember your hilarious references to 80s movies or your dad jokes, your mom jokes, your sports coach jokes, whatever they are. Yes, AI can help you pinpoint certain jokes or references to Top Gun or references to 80s movies. But overall, the substance is what's going to keep you at the top of mind for your clients and referral sources. And if you give that away to AI, you are giving away the ranch. And I think you're going to lose your market share and lose what makes you special in the eyes of the people that you want to be special in.
And I love the way you frame that, because like this is the conversation I have with people about SEO. They're like, oh, it takes so long to rank. I'm like, but that's what you want. If the algorithm completely changes every day, there's no point investing in SEO to be up one day and down the next. It's the same thing here. Like the harder that you make it on yourself to have your own specific voice is the more you stand out, is the better you last, is the more you overcome, any of the technological changes.
I mean, look at you, right? You roll out that Hawaiian shirt, the flip-flops, the khaki shorts. If you just show up on the scene, people are going to be like, who the hell is this guy? But because you have this long track record, you have the law firm, you have legalese, you're proficient, you're prolific with your content, you know how to market, people trust you and they view your total package as this reputable, trustworthy, credible person. If you just show up as a copy and paste of somebody else, people are like, well, who the hell is this guy? You have to kind of earn that respect and that credibility. And in this world of AI content, credibility is authority. If people believe you, they will look to you as an authority. Otherwise, you're going to blend into the wallpaper behind you, and you're not going to stand out from what is going to be more and more competitors. Think about how easy it is now for law firms to create blog posts regarding practices of practice areas that they don't practice today, but maybe they're dipping their toes in the water. They want to bring on an attorney to help them with this, or eventually you have non-lawyer owned law firms coming in and they're going to be putting out content. Content will be how these firms, these new market entrants try to get people in. They cast a wide net through SEO, through other means to bring people in. If you don't have the personality, which right now AI can't give you that personality, it can't give you that content. And when it does, it's super forced. So you've got to, I think, stick to what makes you, you when it comes to your content. Let AI help with topics. Let AI help with the editing, but stick to what makes you special and what makes your perspective special when it comes to the substance of what you're writing about.
Yeah, I love that a ton. Well, I'm reminded of Alice in Wonderland with the Red Queen, where she has to run so fast to stay in place. Like, AI is the tool that allows everybody else to catch up. So you may have to run faster to stay in place on what you're specific to. But the more that you have that strong brand, the more that you have that niche, the more that you have that expertise, the more that you have that credibility, the easier it's going to be for you to stay ahead of it, as opposed to for the new kid on the block, where it's the ability for them to produce 10 blog posts a week instead of one. Like, it's interesting to see the rebalance of power with this technology.
Well, and I think we covered this when you came onto my podcast, Legally Contented, available on all podcast platforms. When we were talking about like getting off that hamster wheel, and if everyone else is running to blog posts and that kind of content and pay-per-click ads, and you get off that hamster wheel and you start reviewing restaurants in the areas that you serve, well, all of a sudden you stand out from the pack. And yeah, you won't get many viewers at first, but as you slowly develop an audience and people come to see you guys and girls as a different firm or different attorneys, you're no longer competing for the top 5 or top 6 spots on a Google search page, because instead you are known as that law firm that does the bicycle donations, it does the Biggest Loser, it does the backpack donations, this kind of day, this charity thing, and they review the best ice cream places in the city. So there are methods to stand out from the crowd. It's obviously harder, but that's why it tends to be successful, but it takes time to stand out from the crowd. And with AI, it's going to be just the town square will be full of speakers all saying the same thing thanks to AI.
Right. I'm gonna be a little unspecific with this story just for the sake of the conversation. But look, I don't know that anybody has ever reached out and hired me because I talk about being a lawyer, as much as that is a thing. But I had somebody who reached out and was like, dude, we got into this conversation about football 6 months ago, and now I got in a car accident. I want your help. I'm a huge Miami Dolphins fan. I'm a tortured Miami Dolphins fan. I understand my team is usually terrible, or actually usually mediocre. And they were one of our serious rivals. And he thought it was the funniest thing. Like, oh, I'm hiring a Dolphins fan. And literally the quote almost verbatim was like, I figure you guys are bound to win something eventually, so maybe you'll win my case. And it just, that stood out to me so much, because I was like, as much as we talk about like, oh, being a great lawyer, here's client reviews, here's this, here's that. Like, this was some throwaway post about the Miami Dolphins being the thing this person remembered to hire me, 6 months later. Like, find that thing for you, be you, let the AI be you at scale. And it's crazy to see, what the impact can be.
Oh, totally. And, one of the things I do with plaintiffs firms and any kind of personal injury or non-corporate defense firm is talk about referral marketing. And it's the same thing with referral marketing. Like, these attorneys are often your equal. They had the same experience as you did in law school. They didn't know anything, just like you did your first year out of law school. They might have families like you. They're in a very similar boat to you right now. You should make an effort to get to know them, because chances are they have beyond the contacts they have and potential clients to refer to you, but they might end up being a huge resource to you because maybe they have a perspective on how to run their firm, or how to deal with their kids or their spouse or their family that you don't know. And if you connect on that human level, right, you just don't know where the relationship can take you. And sometimes we just need support, right? Sometimes it's nice to talk to someone who has been in your shoes, because they too run a 5-person law firm, or they ran a 5-person firm, and now it's 25. And they could talk to you about how they got from 5 to 10, 10 to 15, because you're only at 7 and you're in that process. So to your point about the sports, it could be anything, right? Any hobbies, any books you recently read. You like to run, you do marathons. You don't like to run, you don't do marathons. Whatever could be some human aspect, you just don't know where those connections can take you. And you would be wise, I think, to just be a bit curious about the people you talk to. Ask them that one extra question. If you see their out of office reply about a vacation, when you talk to them next, where'd you go? Real dumb, easy question, right? But you don't know what that's going to say and where it's going to lead. And it will likely go to the beginning of a relationship that carries, maybe it brings you new business, but maybe it finds you a new friend, a new partner, a new whatever. But I'm just reminded that so often we think about connecting with clients, but referral sources are humans too. And they're actually more closely aligned to us, because if they're lawyers, they've seen the world similar to how we see it. And they could be excellent friends, partners, mastermind partners, whatever it is. Just think about more being a human and not just, an attorney to an attorney.
Totally. I love it so much. Yeah. If you are a business owner in Central Florida and you have a kid between like 3 and 7 years old, and you enjoy spending time with your kid, let's hang out. Let's get the kids together. Let's go to a theme park. Let's have fun. And then, see whatever comes after that. But it's amazing to me. The more you put the relationship first with clients, with referral source, with everybody, I think the more business benefit you get out of it, as opposed to going into it like, all right, we're here for 30 minutes. You send me a case, I send you a case. Let's go. Like, that's just not going to be the same. So, all right. So we got through our framework of topic selection, substance, writing itself, and polishing. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we cover when it comes to the copywriting in the age of AI, thought leadership in the age of AI, anything that we missed in the last, 5 minutes or so?
No, I would just say that I urge listeners, viewers, to tinker with this stuff, right? You can do a free trial. Most of the time, it literally is free. Play around with it. What you create never has to see the light of day. It could simply be a Word document that you never click save on, and it just disappears into the black hole of your hard drive. But play around with this. It's going to be here, right? When the iPhone came out, 2007, 2008, whenever it was a big deal. We didn't know it at the time. It was different, but only after a year or 2 or 3, people started to say, well, holy crap, not only is this a new innovative product, but look at all the applications of it. Look how it can be used.
The iPhone 1 didn't even have apps.
Didn't have copy and paste, had 2G, right. I think. It was terribly slow. Right. To your point, didn't have apps. We all saw it as this expensive, beautiful new piece of technology, but no one knew what the hell to do with it until a year, 2, 3 later. And now it is arguably one of the piece of technology that changed our lives the most, for the better or the worse. You can decide. Same thing with AI, right? Like, AI in this kind of consumer facing form is new. It's been around for a while, obviously, but it's new to us in terms of all the applications. Play with it. Does it have a fit with anything you do at your firm, at your business, in your life? Can you use it to analyze your budget? Can you use it to write a blog post? Can you use it to help you determine what all these NPS scores mean for you, or, the kind of person who writes the best person to write reviews for you? Like, think about it. Don't have to commit. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to buy this stuff. Just tinker and experiment and keep your eyes and ears out, because inevitably, if you can't use it, then maybe your competitors will, or maybe the next generation at your business or your law firm will. And you should at least have a working knowledge of what it is and how it could potentially help you and your firm or your business grow and be what you want it to be.
All right. So let me talk about our next episode. We'll come back for your final nugget of wisdom, biggest takeaway. Next week, so July 27th at 6 p.m., we're going to have my social media person on with me. We're going to talk about personal branding and social media. So we'll go deep into my stuff. I'll walk you through it. I have nothing to hide. We'll talk about some of the frameworks and really try and help more lawyers build that personal brand. I didn't think that was going to tie into this episode so well, but ultimately that personal brand becomes that unique voice, becomes that unique spin, becomes that way that you stand out in a world of AI content. I love it. So that being said, though, I'm not going to let you go just yet, Wayne. How can people stay in touch with you first?
Wayne Pollock on LinkedIn. Law firm editorial service is my website for the ghostwriting company. Legally Contented is our podcast. It's the content marketing podcast for the legal industry. You can find it on any podcast platform of your choice. Wayne at lawfirmeditorialservice.com is the best email address.
Awesome. All right. So that being said, if somebody's been listening for the last, 55 minutes, remembers nothing that you said except what you have now, what's the biggest nugget of wisdom, the most important takeaway to help more lawyers be the exhibit A of a successful attorney?
Well, specifically when it comes to this topic, AI and writing and content, I would say dip your toes in it, stay aware of it. Don't be afraid to try it out. Again, it doesn't have to see the light of day, but just get an understanding of what this can do, because we know it'll be in your Lexis or your Westlaw within the next few weeks. If it's not already in terms of AI, you're going to see it every day in your work. Get to know it now and just experiment without feeling you have to create something or pay for it. Dip your toes in it, experiment, and understand what all the hubbub is about when it comes to these new aged AI tools.
I love it. Yeah, it's interesting. The punishment for our fellow colleague is going to do one of two things. It's either going to just set us back for 10 years from AI, or it's going to accelerate the expectation that we know enough about it to not do things wrong. And in a world of, as one of the only two adversarial professions, and the only adversarial profession that is truly knowledge-based, trust me, there's the big firms want to use AI to do document reading when they dump 47,000 boxes of information on everybody else. They want a way to be able to go through that cost effectively. So it's coming, it's already here, and it's only going to get worse or better or more useful or whatever you want to phrase it with. It's there.
Absolutely. I couldn't say it better. And again, experiment, tinker, don't be afraid of it. It's here and it's going to be here for a while. You might as well get comfortable now as opposed to being forced upon you when it is controlling your life.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for chiming in, watching, and listening. Obviously, Wayne, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know I learned a ton. I'm sure our listeners did as well. We'll see you all back here next week, July 27th at 6 p.m., where we'll talk about personal branding and social media. With that, have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Exhibit A Attorneys. If you're interested in becoming the Exhibit A of a successful attorney, please check us out at legalesemarketing.com, EASE.